Okay, in this video, we're going to talk about MLA formatted works cited citations. So we're going to talk specifically about what you put in the citations. First of all, the best thing you can do is to follow the slip. There is a citation template that Mrs. Heffley made for us, so follow it. For the most part, you're probably only going to be dealing with one container. The only time you're going to need two containers are for database articles and for anthologies. For the most part. The rest of the sources usually will only have one container, so you'll probably only be using about half the slip. Okay, so let's start by talking about the author and what goes there. I mean, that's pretty clear, right? It would be the author of the article or work. One thing that's important to note, though, is that it must be an actual person's name. CNN staff is not a person's name. Even if, let's say you're on the CNN website and it says published or written by CNN staff. CNN staff is not a person's name, and so it does not count as the author. You need to actually have a person's name in this. If you do not have an author, an actual person's name, then please just leave it blank. Okay, if you don't have a person's name, leave it blank. If you do have a person's name, then you want to format it last name, comma, first name. Also, by the way, on the sides, you'll see on the citation templates, it tells you how to punctuate the end of each item. So after author, you put a period. So it'd be last name, comma, first name, period. Okay. But if you have two authors, then you do last name, comma, first name, comma, and first name, last name. Okay, so the first person's name that gets listed will be last name, first name, and then the second person will just be first name, last name. Okay, also notice I did not put these in alphabetical order by last name. When you are listing authors, it's important to list the first author that's listed on the actual source. Okay, so there you go. If you have three or more authors, it gets a little bit easier, because then you would put the last name of the first person mentioned, so Lee, comma, Christiana, comma, et al. And et al. Basically means and everybody else. So the first person and everybody else, that's who wrote it. All right, so you would format it exactly like that. Then again, please end with a period. So that's the author. If you have an author, that's what you need to do with it. If you don't have an author, leave it blank. The second thing you need to think about is the source title. The source title refers to the title of a short work. So something like a short story or a poem or an article, like from a website. Okay, that's the title of the article itself. This goes in quotation marks. It does not get italicized. It goes in quotation marks. Okay, books, actual like hardcover books or hard copy books, excuse me, do not have a source title. They only have a container title, so you would skip the source title for actual books. Excuse me. Then you would end with a period. The container title, this always causes quite a bit of confusion, but a container title is the title of the place where you found your information. Okay, so if you found a short story within a book, then the book would be the container. If you found an article on a website, then the website is the container. So it's the place that you found your information. This goes in italics. Okay, so while the source title does not go in italics, the container title must go in italics. You should always have a container title because you should always have a place where you found your information. Okay, so the container title is where you found it. You have to have found it somewhere, so you always should have a container title. You'll end with a comma unless it's a book, because in that case, the container title is the source title, so then you would put a period. Other contributors, similar to the author, you need to have actual names of people for contributors. These, if you have them, great. If you don't, again, just skip them, okay? These are people like editors or illustrators. Sometimes you'll have like an illustrated book, and so if that's the case, then you would put illustrated by. If you have another contributor, then you actually write out the words edited by and then put the person's name, or illustrated by and then put the person's name. You'll end this one with a comma as well. Version and number I'm going to talk about briefly because they're not super common, but with version and number, these have to be actual numbers. Okay, so it can't be like version A, like that's not a number, right? You can't be, you know, the the deluxe version or whatever. It has to be an actual number. Okay. Again, if you have them, include them. If you don't have a version or a number, then skip this. Most sources won't have these. This is most common with anthologies, and especially if you're dealing with a website, you're probably not going to have these. Okay, so you just skip them. If you do have them though, you end with a comma. Publisher. Okay, so publisher, that is the group that produces or publishes the information, but it doesn't have to be called a publisher. Like with a website, sometimes the group that produces the information is the name of the website as well. Okay, and that's fine. You would put them as the publisher because they're the ones producing the information. All right, with books, typically you have an actual publisher name. All right, after you put the publisher, you end with a comma. Publication date, you're going to want to find and include the most recent date or year. And it should be in the following format: day, 2 numbers for the day if you have it, the full month, and the full year. Okay, and then you actually don't put a period, you put a comma. If you only have the year, and that's really common for websites, then only include the year. Don't make up a date. Unlike the date in the heading, your MLA formatted heading, you do need to abbreviate the month and the date. So if it's the month of January, then you would only write JAN period. Okay? And then you end this one with a comma as well. Location. This is another one of those really, really tricky ones because people think, when they think location, they think of a geographical location. But location in a citation does not refer to a geographical location. It's not a city or a state. So if you see like, oh, this book was published in New York, New York, I'll put New York, New York. No, that's not what location is referring to. Location can only be one of two things, either the website URL or the page numbers from the book. So when they're talking about location, they're talking about a specific location where you found your information, okay? Whereas the container title is the title of the place that you found your information. The location is the exact location where I could actually flip to in the book where you found your information. Or it's the exact location where I could type it in and access it online. So again, it's only either a URL or a page number. The other thing you could put, and this is if you're given a PDF, like if your teacher gives you a PDF and you want to cite it, then you would end for location, you'd put PDF file, exactly like I have on my screen. Only include page numbers, like if you're citing a book, only include page numbers if you're only using a few pages. Okay, so if you're only using pages 84 through 86, then include pages 84 through 86. But if you're using the entire book, then leave this part blank, okay? If you're going to cite one page, then you have a lowercase p and then the number 23 or whatever page number it is. If you're going to cite more than one page, you actually put 2 p's. So one page p, more than one page pp. So pp 23 through 25, and that's kind of what it looks like. And then you would end with a period. One thing that's important is that every citation on your Works Cited page needs to end with a period. You have to end every citation with a period. Once you have your citation slip filled out, you'll put it all together. You'll type it out as one continuous citation. So I'm going to go ahead and real quick show you on the website where you can find this information. I filled it out right here. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what information I need on the website and where I found it. All right, so here is my website that I want to cite. The very first thing I need is the authors, and this one happens to have authors, so you can see it there, Elisa Shearer and Jeffrey Gottfried. So those are the authors, and the way that I would do it is, I'll show you on the screen right now. You would write Shearer, comma, Elisa, comma, and Jeffrey Gottfried. Okay, so that's the first thing you need is the author. The second thing you need is a source title. The source title is right up at the top here. It says News Use Across Social Media Platforms 2017. So that's what I'm going to put in my citation template, and I'm going to actually put quotation marks around it because it is the title of an article. The next thing down is the container title. And the container title, where did I find this information? Well, I'm on the Pew Research Center Journalism and Media website. Okay, so that's what I would put, and I would put all of that in italics. All right, so that's my container title because that's where I found this particular article, is on this website. Okay. Other contributors, if you search around the page, we're looking for things like editors, if there's an actual editor name, or illustrators or anything like that, but it doesn't seem to be giving me the names of any contributors, so I'm actually just going to leave that blank. Okay. The next thing we're looking for is version or number. Again, on websites, you hardly ever have a version or number, and if you scroll through and look for a version or number, you won't find one, not on this website. Okay, so that is very unlikely to be found on a website. The publisher. The publisher for this information, a lot of times you can find that at the very, very bottom where it, you get the copyright here. And so the publisher of this information is the Pew Research Center. So that's what I'm going to put for my publisher, Pew Research Center. And yes, that is a little bit redundant because you see that Pew Research Center is in the container title as well. But the container title is actually Pew Research Center Journalism and Media, whereas the publisher is Pew Research Center themselves. And it's fine if it is a little bit redundant. Publication date. Sometimes website articles don't have publication dates, but this one does. So I'm going to take September 7, 2017, and I'll put it in the format of 7 Sept 2017, exactly like that. Then, as far as location goes, remember that a location is either the URL or a set of page numbers, and in my case, it's a URL, so I would copy and paste that into my citation, just like this. Okay, so it should look like this, and when you put it all together, it looks like that. Notice that I have my hanging indent there where my second, third, and fourth lines of my citation are indented. Also notice that I ended the entire citation with a period. That is important. And so there you go. That's citations and what goes inside them.